Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of SportsView on NairMedia.tv. And all the information is on there in our strip line going across info@nairmedia.tv is our usual email. Press the red button to subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends and tell us all about us. Welcome, Martin, to the show again.
Hi, Pat. How are you?
A great day here, lads. I don't know what part of the world you're in, but we're having lovely sunny weather here in the beautiful city of Limerick. There you go now, man. It augurs well. Maybe I don't know what the weather forecast is for next weekend with the All Ireland hurling final on the horizon between Limerick and Kilkenny. But we'll get to that later on. I suppose, Martin, we could start anywhere, but we might as well start at history making Ireland, the Irish rugby team, who made history, and I'll tell you, I didn't think they would myself, and I'll be honest about that. But the match panned out, and Ireland won it against the All Blacks. The first time ever they beat the All Blacks down in their own backyard. What did you get to see any of it, Martin, later on? Or?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah?
And I felt New Zealand were probably the masters of their own downfall in a lot of ways. Their discipline had a lot to be desired, and some of the decisions they made in the sideline resulted in one of their key players being taken off when there was probably no need for him to be taken off. I suppose they tried a lot of tricks. They had 15 players on the field at one stage when they should have only had 14. I think you sometimes wonder, are they above the rules at times? But in fairness to Ireland, New Zealand tried to rattle them in a lot of ways, and Ireland remained focused on, I suppose, the job in hand, which was to turn them over.
And the red card they got, would you think that there was no doubt about that?
I think it was 100% a red card. It was a head into the head, there was no attempt to dip for the tackle, and therefore it was a very dangerous challenge. And it was one of many. There was one previously on the winger Mac Hansen, which was. As late as
just borderline enough that when I saw that,
so there was one or two other instances where if that game is reffed maybe in a World Cup scenario, that the decisions might be different, but it can be an intimidating place for a referee to ref in New Zealand, and I think the ref was a small bit. Let's just say not as fulfilling his role as well as he could, especially in the first half.
Yeah, and I saw highlights. I saw most of about 80% of the match. But I know you shouldn't kick a team when they're down, and New Zealand are no way down. It's only one match, but nevertheless, it's important. And also the fact that Richie McCaw himself, I remember, he was consistently and persistently offside in Dublin all those years ago, and allowed to get away with it, which was, to me, was just incredible. Is it? I don't know what it is, and really the officials have a lot to answer for in this, because, their paramount responsibility, whatever about the biases they may have and stupidity and stupid decisions, is the protection of the players, because some players are wide open for these incredible tackles. I can think of the tackle on Brian O'Driscoll all those years ago. You remember that yourself, Martin,
Yeah.
And, we saw we saw what happened. We saw what didn't happen after that tackle, as well. So, they have form, and they are bad losers. There's no doubt about it. They are very bad losers. And just as we're talking about New Zealand now, Martin, I was just looking at the revised pool games in the World Cup. So now Pool A, which is New Zealand's pool, you have New Zealand, Italy, Uruguay, France, and Namibia. Namibia qualified for that pool over the weekend. They beat Kenya 36-0. So that'll be Pool A. And I'll tell you, New Zealand and France obviously could be favourites to come out of that, I suppose, would they?
Yeah, you would think so, and then in the order of how they come out is what's crucial for us. And I suppose everybody thinks that, well, it's not cast iron yet, but we could potentially play New Zealand.
In the quarter final?
I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 4 pools,
Mm,
20 teams, eight
mm,
teams. Well, look, New Zealand, and we'll give it to France and probably South Africa and
mm,
Ireland. South Africa, Ireland, Scotland, and Romania, and plus one more are in that group.
mm. Yeah,
That'll be tough enough as well.
yeah,
Scotland are tough.
yeah.
Romania, yeah,
Yeah, and there's a lot of water to go under the bridge yet. We still are relying on a 36, 37-year-old out half who we haven't replaced. In fairness to the guy, he's absolutely unbelievably good. And again, the weekend he just shows why he's the number one. And the weekend previously, when he was taken off, things kind of fell apart. So he is the number one. He's the number one by a long way. Now you might say that the other guys don't get enough opportunity to, I suppose, get enough games under their belt to show that they could potentially replace him. And that's a kind of a criticism you could place at the coaches and at the RFU. But looking at what we can only judge what we see, and he's a long way ahead of the rest.
well, it's a testament of the resilience of the man. But as you said, we hope nothing happens to Johnny Sexton. Japan, of course, put up a good show against France, but they were eventually beaten by 20 points to 15. Georgia beat Italy, which I think is a significant result for the two teams there, 28-19.
Mm.
And so England bounced back to beat
Yeah.
Australia 25-17. You didn't see any of that, did you?
No, I didn't see. The only other game I saw bits of was Scotland, and they beat Argentina.
They did. They won that well, 29-6. And of course,
Yeah.
South Africa were pipped by Wales,
By Wales.
13-12, And
Yeah.
but still, they'd be one of my teams. I think that could go a long ways in the World Cup. South Africa, a pretty good team. And you don't know with these tours, you don't know how hard they're going. But certainly next Saturday morning will be an incentive for us to look at the All Blacks and Ireland. I don't know what kind of a match there'll be. I don't know who's refereeing it for a start. Is it
Stuart Barnes? Stuart Barnes is referee. Stuart Barnes.
Oh, is he refereeing it?
He's refereeing. Yeah.
But New Zealand will win then.
Well, probably. It's on in Wellington, and the forecast is for rain. So, if you look at last week's game, it was played in a stadium where the roof was closed. So, it allowed the teams to actually play rugby and move the ball. Wellington this weekend probably won't be. You probably won't be able to do that. So it'll probably be a really physical game, and New Zealand will make it as physical and as on the border of being illegal as possible.
Well, there's no doubt about that in my mind. I mean, but Ireland now, and the majority of the Irish team are around the block a long time, Martin. So there'll be no naivety on their part. There'll be no surprises for most of those players, which is a positive, But as you said, to be down to the performance of the officials, which is a pity, really, in a way, But there you go. There's a lot of money involved,
Yeah.
And anyway, we wish Ireland well next Saturday morning. It'll be a reason to watch the match, because I thought in my heart and soul it to be over by next Saturday. But I'll tell you, fair play to them anyway, to the resilience. Fair play to the evergreen Peter O'Mahony. We have to mention him as well, Martin.
Yes, and he had a few choice words for the New Zealand captain, or the New Zealand, I suppose. New Zealand captain was taken off, which was Sevilla, which he was taken off accidentally. But Sam Kane, I think, took over the captaincy when he was taken off, and seemingly Peter O'Mahony had some choice words for him during the end of the game when they had an exchange of opinion.
They had he good old English, rough English we call it down here. Something to look forward to, lads. 8:05 next Saturday morning. Unfortunately, all these matches are on Sky Sports, so there you go. That's that's another restriction for people. But however, we have to live. That's the world of sport we're in. Sports User program here with Martin Waters and myself here on this Monday, the 11th of July. I can't believe we're in July already. I'm trying to get used to. I only got used to June. Now, Martin, also over the weekend we had here on this side of the pond, we had the two football All Ireland semi finals.
Mm.
Saturday and Sunday, we had Galway and Derry, and we had Kerry and Dublin. Did you see any of those?
I did. I didn't see all of Galway and Derry. I saw kind of highlights of it. Now, seemingly, I didn't miss much in the first half when it was 4 points apiece, and Hawkeye failed to function. Second half seemingly was a whole lot better, and I suppose Galway got on top of Derry, and Derry kind of were probably a small bit one-dimensional in the way they played. And once they were behind, they found it very hard to actually change how they play. While Galway had a bit more kind of flair, a bit more, I suppose, a bit more of a target man as well, in Damien Comer, who scored 2 goals. And that was the difference between the sides. Galway had just that bit more firepower. I saw Kerry and Dublin. That was a cracking match, but I suppose at one point I thought Kerry were going to win quite easily. But they did their best to lose it. And
They did.
yeah.
It would have been a travesty if Kerry had lost that match because they were far, far superior to Dublin. I think nerves did set in. You're right.
Mm.
But getting back to the Galway match, the first half of the Galway Derry match were probably. I'm around longer than you are, and I tell you, it was the worst half of senior football championship in living memory. And I tell you, I was down in Killarney in 1974 at the Munster football final between Cork and Kerry.
Mm.
At half time in that match, it was 7 points to 6 in a pouring rain.
Mm.
And Kerry only scored 1 point in the second half in that match against Cork in 1974, which was a joy for myself and my dad, and we had it.
Yeah.
But for that first half between Galway and Derry was shocking. I had actually thought that Derry would qualify for the final, but whatever coaching they're doing, Gallagher is doing to Derry,
Mm.
they're they have talented footballers on the team, as you know, and you agree with
Yeah.
me there, Martin. Derry, that is.
Yeah.
But they were stifled by some god awful system, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Shocking altogether.
Yeah.
But Galway have probably one of the best natural two-legged footballers, apart from Clifford in Shane Walsh. He's
Yeah.
just superb, and I'm delighted that he'll get a chance to contest for an All Ireland medal. That's Shane Walsh himself.
Yeah.
And Damien Comer, of course, as well. They have a
Mm.
nice team. They could beat Kerry.
They could be Kerry, and like a lot of the game will come down to, I suppose, it'll come down to nerves. One for one, like both teams, like Galway haven't been there since 2001. This Kerry team have been, I suppose, everybody's saying that they need to win one. And it's like, I suppose, the last final they were in, they lost in the replay to Dublin. So like you'd wonder, will Kerry kick on after beating Dublin? Like you kind of expect that they would, but I still wouldn't write off Galway. But it's hard to see past Kerry. But, again, will nerves get the better of them? Like they, if you look at the weekend's match, they were 6 points ahead. They missed the penalty. Things could have really gone wrong for them. Because like Dublin were trying all the tricks in the book. The goalkeeper was going down. When the penalty was awarded, he went to take a quick kick out, but all of a sudden he went down holding his head, and he kind of killed 3.5 minutes where when Dublin were on the black card. Then there was the time for the free at the end where he was shaking the post.
He was, and people don't realise that, but the two umpires should have brought the attention of the referee to that.
yeah,
and he should have been either black carded
yeah,
or red carded. You
yeah,
cannot do that in the
no,
match,
yeah,
and it didn't. It did not bode well for the discipline of some of the players
yeah,
on that Dublin side, and it was just very unedifying, as you said.
yeah.
The histrionics of the goalkeeper
Mm,
let himself down and his team down.
mm.
And Farrell hasn't been tackled on or spoken about it, right? Desi Farrell, but there you go.
But they won't do any interviews. Like that's the problem, like the build up to the game. I don't think there was any interviews, so the media can't get hold of these guys to even ask them a question.
Yeah,
So you'd wonder where it's all going to go because like the media do an awful lot of work for their sponsors and things like that. So yes, they're not willing to give them an interview, or not willing to discuss why a player is injured, or not willing to discuss just kind of like any general questions in the lead up to an All Ireland semi final. It's kind of a bizarre situation now where county teams will not engage with the media in the build up to a big game,
yeah.
just in case they say something that would be on the dressing room wall of the opponent. When is all that going to stop?
I think it's a shocking state of affairs myself, but there you go. Also, the Taunton Cup final was played on Saturday. I was just looking at the pictures there a while ago of the homecoming for the Westmeath team, Martin. It was just tremendous. I think they need more publicity now. They need that to be a standalone competition
Yeah,
with its own final in Cork Park. Maybe followed up with the minor final, the minor football final as a
yeah,
head up
yeah,
to the Cork Park. That
yeah,
would be a lucrative enough matches to go to, because really Cavan and Westmeath, there must be, and all the other teams that took part in it as well.
yeah.
I mean, really and truly. Now Westmeath are in the Sam Maguire next year.
Yeah, but like even if you look at the semi-finals, you had Sligo, you had Offaly, and both teams like Offaly gave a very good account of themselves for a
They
very
did.
very very young side. You could see physically having matured as even adults. And they gave a very good of account of themselves against Westmeath.
They
Whilst
did.
Sligo played well for spells and had plenty of goal chances against Cavan that they didn't take. So it gives something for those counties to play for when traditionally there was nothing to play for after round one or round two of the championship.
But also, I think there's still a gap, Martin. I know there's no system perfect, not because Cork were in it, but teams like Cork and Clare who went into the qualifiers, remember? They
Mm,
went into the first round of the qualifiers. They were gone. They had nothing else.
mm, yeah,
I think there could be another round in the Talton Cup
mm,
for the first round, losers in the qualifiers.
yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, Cork had to beat Kerry to progress, and we know how big an order that was. And
Yeah.
same with Limerick. Were Limerick in the Tarleton Cup?
No, Limerick, because they were beaten in the Munster final, they ended up
Oh
having a
yeah.
game against Cork of all counties down in Cork, and lost. So that was the end of the season. Yeah,
And so teams like that should have. There should be another round of the Tarleton Cup competition. Could
yeah,
be easily woven into that.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the way I'd be thinking of it. Teams like Cork, Limerick, teams should need another one or two, something to play for. That's what I'm talking
Exactly,
about.
yeah, and they're mostly Division Two, Division Three teams, and
Yeah.
there isn't a whole lot between a kind of a lower end Division Two team and a top end Division Four team. Limerick have come from Division Four to Division Two in the space of 2 seasons, so there isn't a whole lot there between those teams. So it definitely
Yeah.
would be worth their while to actually get more into that Talton Cup potentially, and like I think we'd all agree that the gap currently between the top 5 or 6 in the country to the rest is quite large.
Well, it is, but also we must, before we leave football, we must congratulate Kilkenny junior footballers. They are working hard doing football now in Kilkenny because they are much maligned for years. Well, last year they only have one sport down there, and it's easy for them to win all the All Irelands and all the concentration on hurling. But they won the All Ireland junior football title. They beat New York in the final by
Yeah.
11 or 12 points. But I think it was good for football, good for the county to promote the game. And after all, it's an
Yeah.
extra football county, and now they
Yeah.
can make progress after that.
Hopefully they'll kick on now and continue on playing football
Yeah,
and give
and
the rest of us a break.
I mean, Carlow's a smaller county than Kilkenny, and they punch above their weight in football from time to time. Same with Wexford in football, So, I mean, Leash in football, well, it's a big county, But also, as we're on GA games, this time next week, we'll be on air congratulating either Limerick or Kilkenny next Monday night after achieving All Ireland success. This is on next Sunday at 3:30 traditional time. That's Kilkenny and Limerick. Limerick are going for a historic three in a row in hurling, Martin, and Kilkenny. Well, Kilkenny have a lot of All Irelands won, but they haven't won one for a while. I don't know, Martin. It's a contrast of two styles. Kilkenny
Yeah.
played very traditional in their last match. It's a simple game: six back, six forwards, two midfielders, and you have the same correspondence to mark. So I mean, they played to me a nice style of direct hurling, not their man. I know it sounds so simple, and I even sound silly talking about it, but really, it's 15 against 15. I think it'll be a very tough match for both teams.
Yeah. I don't think there'll be no quarter given anyway. It'll be very physical.
No.
I was at the Limerick and Galway semi-final, and again, it was, for 66, 67 minutes, like it was all square, and Galway brought, I suppose they brought something different where they tended to play the ball in between, I suppose, the centre field position and the half forward position, where they found pockets of space there, and they were able to score from range, which kept them kind of like within the 3 to 4 point range of Limerick after the first half. Then they get a goal, which brings them to win a point, and then they score a point, and then it's all square. So, I can assume, I'd only assume that that's very similar to the way Kilkenny played Limerick in 2019, where it was again scoring points from that range, and then they tacked on goals from Fennelly, who was full forward at the time, to sail into a lead. Like, that can't happen this time around. If Limerick let Kilkenny get off to a start like they did in 2019, Limerick are in big trouble. So, I'd expect Limerick to have that in the back of their minds, and I've no doubt they'll have plenty in the back of their minds, but that they'll have to start quickly against Kilkenny, because Kenny put Clare to bed very quickly in the semi-final 2 weeks ago.
I know it's a terrible thing to say about a player, but in Limerick, but to me, after watching Limerick last 3 or 4 matches, I think Kyle Hayes is lost, hurling wise. He's lost. He looks like a lost man on the field to me.
Well, in the semi-final against Galway, I thought he was from watching him play, it was a 50-50 decision in relation to who was man of the match. It was either him or Aaron Gillan. Now, for me, his natural position is centre forward, and that's where he played in 2018, and he was voted Young Player of the Year. 2019, he was shifted around a bit because there was a few things happened. In the championship, he played centre forward, but in the Kilkenny game, he was switched quite a lot, where he ended up all over the place, really, because the game, Declan Hannon got injured, they had to shift a few people around, and he was playing half back, he was playing everywhere, and he didn't have really a good game at all. 2020, the COVID year, he was reverted back to wing back, and 2021 he was wing back again, and he had a stellar season playing wing back, left wing back, and scored that great goal against Tipperary. And I felt all right, they found now a position for him this season. Again, they decided not to play him there and play him corner forward, which I'm not sure what that's all about, but I
don't know either.
It's Cork to a degree, because they just isolated him with the corner back, and he kind of won a lot of the high ball that was drifted in there. And but against Tipperary it didn't work, and against Waterford it kind of worked. Against Clare it didn't really work, and due to injuries and Cian Lynch being out, they put him back centre forward again. And I thought against Galway he was excellent. So
Yeah.
like
Well,
from my reading of it, like I can't like it's look, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes with fitness levels of players and stuff like that. Is Cian Lynch ready to start? Like I don't know. I don't like from what I saw against Galway. Like 20 minutes of a match, of game time, but before an All-Ireland final, is it enough?
no, he
I
won't
would
be stopped.
suggest that he won't start and that Kyle Hayes will play centre forward again. And when you look at the Kilkenny's half back line, you have the likes of Paddy Deegan. You've guys that are really good in the air. And my opinion would be that Limerick will start Morrissey, Hayes, and Hegarty in the half forward line for Limerick.
I think my own preference is my own opinion. I'd rather see Kyle Hayes wing back myself. That's just me.
Mm.
He brings a huge physicality to the
Yeah.
back line, and he can play anywhere in the back line. But that would be just me against Kilkenny to stop TJ Reid and those guys. I'll tell you, he'd be solid there. That's just me. I'd love to see him. Obviously, the way I look at it, if Cian Lynch is fit enough to play, obviously he'll start the match, because I don't think Kylie will keep anyone like that. They'll have to go out gung ho, as you said from the start. It's an All-Ireland final. Put on your best team. If Cian Lynch cannot last the whole match, that's a different. They'll have surely planned for that. I tell you, it's going to be interesting enough.
Yeah.
I think Cody has intimated that this is going to be his last year in hurling management as well. The local newspapers. And look, is this his 17th time getting into an All-Ireland final or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Jeez, I mean, when you think about it, like, really, how does the man keep going? But still, he's had the players. He must have the players as well. In fairness,
Yeah.
But, so would you be confident that Limerick will do the 3 in a row?
I wouldn't be I'd be going up there, and hopefully if I get a ticket. If like, confident is definitely one thing I wouldn't be anyway. I'd be hopeful more than confident, because I just can see like absolute kitchen sink being thrown at him. Probably like the Waterford game early on in the year, Waterford threw the kitchen sink at Limerick. It was one of the most physical first half performances I think I've ever seen. And Limerick managed to withstand it. I can see very similar being thrown at them, and on Sunday Kilkenny will throw everything at them. And I suppose the difference in Kilkenny and Galway is that the Kilkenny scoring accuracy would be a lot higher. So they won't miss much.
I mean, Kilkenny would be potentially a higher scoring team than Galway were. Galway missed. I counted 8. It's all very fine to say easy points, but really, when senior intercounty players, they were missed an awful lot of very, very easy scores.
Yeah.
I know, fair play to them. I would think that. I'd be confident myself, being a neutral in this, that Limerick will do the 3 in a row. It'll be tight, but I think Limerick have the better forwards, and Limerick or Kilkenny have a very good half-back line, but I think Limerick has the physicality for that to neutralise the Kilkenny half-back line. And as I said, if my man isn't the half-back line, Kyle Hayes, I think TJ Reid will be very quiet. But that's just me. John, we're only giving you advice, John. It'll be up to you in the end to pick the team. Anyway, Martin Morris and myself on SportsView here on NerdMedia.tv tell all your friends about us. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel and to share it with your friends. Soccer, Pogba is gone anyway to Juventus, Martin.
Yeah, and I don't think there'll be a lot of people crying about that one.
Yeah, and Sterling has gone to Chelsea. It's official as well. Raheem
Mm.
Sterling. Were you surprised with that?
I, I, I thought he'd go to Spain myself, or
Yeah,
further afield, maybe Italy. But like these guys are on huge salaries in England, and there's very few clubs in the world can afford to sign them. So it's a strange one for me. If you look at Chelsea's setup, I suppose, look, the manager inherited a team that was kind of like, it was, I suppose, Frank Lampard was uh, responsible for bringing some of the younger players through and some of the signings.
yeah,
So, he now probably needs to put his own stamp on it and maybe shift a few people out and get a few people he likes in
yeah.
for the style of football he wants to play. But Sterling was, yeah, it's one I didn't see coming.
Kante. There's a tussle between Arsenal apparently and Man United for Kante.
Yeah, well, like he is a phenomenal kind of defensive centre field player that Manchester United have been crying out since 2013, I think it is, for somebody to play in that position, and they have yet to sign one remotely capable of doing it.
And I was going to ask you there, what about Ronaldo?
Well, look, in my opinion, if you look at Pogba wanted to go 2 years ago, and it was dragged on and on and on and on. If a player wants to go, they should just let him go.
I know. I agree with you there. Just leave him off. Look, if you don't want to play for the club, what is the point in having you there?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going to be a disruptive force. Ten Hag is already getting stick in the media, which is unfortunate. He didn't even start his career. Ten Hag for 10 months.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
you hear
Like
that?
it's just typical. Like um, it's just typical of what's happening at Old Trafford at the moment. Like it's just total farce.
Who wants to be a manager, for God's
Yeah,
sake?
yeah.
You know, want to be a manager. I think that's very unfair to the man himself. I don't know anything about him. The women's Euros are on at the moment in England, Martin.
Mm.
The Euro 22. The ladies. Do you see any of the matches?
I haven't really like. I just kind of tuned into it briefly. What's great to see is in the stadiums where these games are played. I tuned in last night where I think Italy were playing France, and it was on in the Rotherham United Stadium.
Yeah,
I couldn't get over the quality of the stadiums, which were, Rotherham were League One side last year, who've been promoted to the Championship. So it just shows the array of resources and facilities that they have in England. That
it's fantastic.
it's just fantastic. Yeah.
It's
Um,
fantastic, and in the Euros group, we won't mention the word that's coming home because we put the hex on England. But England at the moment are Group A is being decided, and Austria beat Northern Ireland this evening at 2-0, and England are beating Norwich. To me, surprisingly 4-0.
ooh,
Norway would be one of the strong. That's a phenomenal performance from England. I haven't seen
it's a
any
big,
of them
yeah, yeah,
finding it here. So no, it's 5-0 now. Sorry,
yeah,
Martin. It's gone to 5-0.
yeah.
No, we'll leave that. But that's England. We'd say England coming out of Group A with Austria. But
Mm.
it's come out of Group A. So I mean, they're doing very well. They're playing at home. There was 500,000 tickets sold before the tournament for the matches.
Yeah, that's a
Which
lot.
is
Yeah.
which is a lot of tickets and so fantastic. Look. What they need is support week in, week out, as we know for soccer, for the bread and butter soccer
Mm.
matches like we have here in this country, for the League of Ireland, for the First Division. We need people to get up and go out because there's nothing like live soccer,
Mm.
and you can be disparaging too much about things. We have there is a good product in Ireland. League of Ireland is very good. The standard is pretty good. It doesn't get any exposure. It doesn't get enough exposure, in my opinion, here in the League of Ireland I'm talking about. There's
Mm.
some very, very nice grounds, some lovely teams, and well, Shelbourne won over the weekend 3-1 against Finn Harps. Damien Duff is managing Shelbourne. I'm sure some of you will remember Damien Duff when he was playing. It's a
Yeah.
tough, sticky wicket for him, but I mean, he's stuck in there. The
yeah,
people say he would stay there, but he has, and they're turning their season around now. Treaty United here in Limerick are playing their trade in the first division, and they had a good 3-0 win over Longford there over the weekend. So it's between themselves and Longford and someone else for the promotion, and because there's a big gap between Galway and Cork and the rest of and
yeah,
Waterford and the rest of the team. So it's going to be tough for them, and they lost a few good players as well.
mm,
But however, that's the soccer. Soccer also. What was I going to say about the soccer? The women's Euro, yeah, indeed. And Spain are another team. They won 4-1 against Finland. Germany are the usual winners. England beat Austria 1-0, and they're 5-0 ahead Norway. So we give that to England, that group to England. And I wish them all the best for that. Also, what was I going to say? What about the Tour de France, Martin?
yeah.
Has he made the move to win it? Pogacar.
He's made the move to win it, but he might have made the move very soon. So he's
Yeah,
got a 40-second lead after week one, with 2 weeks to go and a lot of the major climbing yet to be done. Now, he is the best rider in the race, but has he expended a lot of effort for a 40-second gap? And are his team strong enough to actually support him to actually continue or hold the jersey until the end? So that's the question. He is the outright favourite for it and has been from the start.
yeah,
His rivals are generally coming from, Team Ineos and Jumbo Visma teams. Jumbo Visma have a guy called Jonas Vingegaard, who's a Danish cyclist who is on the same team as Primoz Roglic. Roglic had a crash, lost a lot of time, so he's kind of out of contention, but he's still a good guy to have on your side when things start going high.
yeah.
So Vingegaard is probably the closest to him. He was runner-up last year, and he's 40 seconds down with some big climbs. They head into the Alps, kind of like from Wednesday onwards, where they do some of the most iconic climbs in the Tour de France on Wednesday and Thursday.
And can those uh, type of times be made up with those big climbs? For someone now who doesn't follow every single stage, I was delighted. I saw the stage yesterday, Martin, by the way, on TG Cahar, that the man from Luxembourg won.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
fascinating to watch. It's a good,
yeah,
Van Aert, of course. I love watching Van Aert. Van Aert won the
yeah.
stage there over the weekend as well. So
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
he's got the green jersey. So it was Sean. If you think Sean Kelly back in the '80s was, I think he won 6 or 7 green jerseys over
yeah,
his career. So it's probably for a rider that's extremely consistent and really good at winning sprint finishes. And
yeah,
Van Aert has proven to be that kind of guy. So Van Aert will continue probably to win stages over the coming 2 weeks. But in relation to the yellow jersey, a 40-second gap is a lot to pull back over 1 or 2 days, but it's not a lot to pull back over 2 weeks.
right. There's two more. Of course, it's not until the end of the month, as we said. That's the Tour de France. It's covered every day on TG Cahar.
Yeah,
They've covered it for years now, of course, which isn't just for people. These stages are you're talking about 2 hours, 2.5 hours cycling, in many of those. I'm sure 2.5 hours at least.
you're talking 4.5, Pat, 5 hours.
Are you?
Oh, you are. Yeah. So a lot of those stages will start at kind of 10 a.m. French time, and they may not finish to 3:30, 4 p.m.
Oh,
Um,
because
yeah.
there's something
So
you want a lot. You want a lot of pseudo cream, Martin, would you?
well, something along those lines, anyway. So
That's SportsView is the program here, Martin Morris and myself. I know where that came from. I think I heard the program about our natural product, pseudo cream, is used for everything and anything. So there you go. Now I
yeah,
must have heard that. It must have been in my head over the weekend. Well, tell you go to show I didn't be listening to over the weekend, but just over the weekend, of course, we had Novak Djokovic winning his 21st Grand Slam title against the wonderful Ronnie O'Sullivan of tennis, Nick Kyrgios. My
Yes.
highlight, before you say anything, my highlight of Wimbledon was the match between Nick Kyrgios and Tsitsipas. I
Yeah.
thought it was just magnificent. He
Yeah.
totally psyched him out of it. Totally
Yeah.
psyched him out of it. Did you
Mm.
see that?
I did. I saw it, and I too thought it was a fantastic game, because sometimes tennis can become less about the personality and more about the actual the process. And
Yes. Yes.
Kyrgios is bringing personality back into the game.
Yeah. He's box office, isn't he?
His box
Pure box
office,
office.
yeah, absolute box office.
Yeah.
And like even yesterday in the final, the fact that he won the first set and won it in 30, I think it was 31 or 32 minutes,
Yes.
it really set up then the next three sets to be, um, a scenario where Djokovic had to be at his best, and you knew Kyrgios was going to kind of lose the head.
Yeah. A little bit.
And
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah.
so he was picking people out from the crowd. He was having a go off somebody that he said was calling out when he was taking his shot. He had a go at the umpire on several occasions. He had a go at his team. He had a go at everyone.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think that the shame of Wimbledon was no ranking points and the banning of players. To my mind, I'll never forgive the authorities for that. The tournament to me was genuinely affected. Apart from Kyrgios, who came through, I didn't expect, but I did. When all the other players dropped out, you had no Medvedev there. You had no Zverev, he was injured. You had a lot of players. You had no Berrettini. He had to pull out at the start of it. So there was an awful lot of marquee players missing from the men's draw.
Yeah,
You had on the women's side then. I mean, just wide open. Rybakina, ironically from Moscow, won
yeah,
the ladies
yeah,
singles. I know
yeah.
she's become a citizen of
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan
Yeah,
since 2018 or something like that. But
yeah,
all her family is still in Moscow.
yeah.
And there you go. It's so ironic. I was delighted
Mm,
for her, really, when you think that the women get the same prize money as the men, and some of their matches are only an hour or a little bit over an hour.
yeah.
It's a
Well, what
bit.
was great about the women's side though was the unpredictability of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Where like almost every seeded player was like, apart from the final where you had two seeded players in the final, but like majority of the top seeds were knocked out either by each other or by a ranked outsider. And
that's right. And what's her name? Ons Jabour from Tunisia. We have to mention her. I mean, that
mm,
was phenomenal, phenomenal achievement. I mean, when you look at her backstory, where she came
yeah,
from, from Tunisia, it
mm,
must be an inspiration for Arab women, Arab athletes as well. Which can be very much. I think she'll do as much now for Arab women, hopefully in sport, as what's her name, the Freeman there in Australia when she
yeah,
won that big gold. I mean,
yeah,
give them that sense of worth of
yeah,
themselves, a sense of yes equality, a sense of
mm,
respectability. They
yeah,
don't need it, but you know what I
yeah,
mean. And I think that Ange Jabour for Tunisia, I mean, the fact that they couldn't be visas organised for her for most of her family, which is another
yeah.
carry on, that you have with. But Wimbledon, is it a very, very, is the sport, would you say, Martin, itself, after watching Wimbledon? I know there's an awful lot of what they call traditional, to me, what
Yeah.
they call pomposity around it. Is
Yeah.
there a lot of inequality sitting around? Is it uncomfortable sometimes?
You've- Um, I was only talking about it there lately, and like I've never been there, so I've never actually gone to Wimbledon to actually watch a tennis match. Now, I would like to go and experience it on the ground and see. Like it's
Yes.
hard to have like a kind of a real good solid opinion on it without actually going there and see what it's like. I'd love to see what it's like to sit at centre court and watch the carry on, watch the game, watch the pomp, see what's happening. It's something I'd like to experience, just to get an insight into how it all operates. I know from watching the matches over the years, there's the royal family have a lot of influence around it. They seem to be, it seems to they seem to have kind of almost center stage for the number of weeks that the tournament runs. I don't know enough about the history of it to understand why that is. It's something I've never really dug into or never took any kind of like time to understand why.
Well, we look forward to Nick Kyrgios entertaining us again anyway. Djokovic, fair play to him. When you look at where he came from this year, being deported out of Australia,
Yeah,
or the carry on, and the resilience of the man to win that 21st Grand Slam, and Nadal pulling out injured, at the semi-final, which was unfortunate as well, But
yeah.
these things happen, I suppose. But all in all, I suppose it was interesting for people. It's still pretty minority, but anyway. I hope Nick stays around for a good while. Wouldn't it be great to see him here doing some kind of an exhibition? I think we'll have a word with JP, will we?
Well, they're only saying there. I was listening to an interview there by one of the old Irish tennis players. I think it was Conor Nyland, who
Yeah,
played in Wimbledon.
didn't Conor Nyland qualify for Wimbledon one year, did he?
He did, yeah, he did. He also played in the US Open. He played in the US Open and he got a stomach bug the night before he was due to play on the Arthur Ashe court against Djokovic.
Go away.
He had to pull out, I think it was in the second set, because he was just so sick. But he did play in Wimbledon. And I think his backstory is that they lived in the UK for a while and they actually lived across the road from a tennis club. And that's how they got into tennis, and then they came back to Limerick and they started playing in the Limerick Lawn Tennis Club. And then he started playing in tournaments and, obviously Irish and European. Yeah, during the interview, he said that, when he was, say, I don't know, was it 10 or 11 or 12, that Roger Federer was 2 years younger, and even at that point, Federer was already, picked out as to be, a champion, at that age. He said there was an under-12 tournament being played, and Monica Seles was playing in it, and she won it, and she was only 9 years of age. It just shows you how good these world stars are at such a young age.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And of course, I remember Sean Sorensen and Matt Doyle when they were flying the flag for Ireland in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
It's on the 80s and tennis. And there was the Irish Open was attracted a good few years. So I always have the Irish Open after Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And a lot of the seeded players in the lower rung, but they were still pretty popular. There used to be huge crowds in Dublin, the Irish Open I'm talking about.
And seemingly Ireland has one of the highest ratios of tennis clubs per capita. But yet it's not a game you see much coming through.
No.
So you'd wonder what's the I don't know enough about it, but where are the cracks? Why the fact that there's no Irish Open alone.
Yeah.
When there was one.
I mean, if your son now or daughter were at an age where they wanted to do tennis, I mean, as you said, what are the stepping stones? What are the progressions? Where do you go from A to B to C?
Yeah.
Like, if you join the local boxing club, you have the cadet, and then you're up to junior and intermediate and senior. We know the progression there, and the same with hurling, football, and soccer and rugby. But with tennis, as you said, I don't know. Maybe we'll explore that for another program. In Formula One as well over the weekend, Leclerc won it for he won the Austrian Grand Prix for Ferrari. Verstappen was second and Hamilton third in that. Verstappen is a 38 point lead now after 14, 15, 12, 13 races. I think he's on his way to his number 2 title. You think? Do you see any of that, Martin? The
No, I
crashes.
didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't see
And
any.
I just saw the end of it for my own enjoyment. I couldn't sit down and watch the full race because once the leader goes out, the only thing that will pass him is if he gets a puncture or something.
Yeah,
I think it's all gone very boring myself. I don't know, maybe it's my age as well. I don't know, Formula One. I used to love it one time, you know, you'd never miss it, you didn't know when it's on, what time and where they are. But still,
yeah.
it's a good sport, I suppose, you know. But before we finish, Martin, we'll just go back here from SportsView. We got the football, wrong. Um, no, we got the football half wrong. In other words, we got it half right as well. So there you are now. You know, the hurling next weekend, Martin. Where's your 50p? You know, seriously, you
Pat,
have to put your head on the block for this. And
no,
you
no,
replicate.
I'm not. I'm not putting my head in the block, because I'll be castigated. Um, but seemingly there's going to be a replay, and I didn't realize that. But someone told me that the replay is fixed for the following week.
Well,
Um,
it's a final. It's a final.
yeah, yeah,
People got confused this year because of
mm,
the tightness of the thing. But
mm,
semi-finals, they had decided they were going to be finished on the day they were
yeah,
played
yeah,
because of the fixed congestion.
yeah,
But final is a different matter because the
yeah,
final there's nothing coming after it, you know.
yeah. So
So
the final there is a replay, and it's fixed for the following week. So
so you're
maybe
hoping the replay will be in Thurles, is it?
Gaelic grounds, maybe.
Anyway, I think that John Kiley, I want Kyle Hayes at number 7 or number 5, John, and Keane Lynch in at 11, and
Mm,
I think he'd have every chance in of beating the Cats, you know. But
yeah.
anyway, may the best team win. I'm looking forward to the name. You're hoping you're going there, are you?
If I get a ticket, Pat, yeah. If I get a ticket, Pat. One more thing: the new Cork management team for the hurling. Have you any views on that one?
I got I was off last week. I was down in Mallow for the whole week with my dad, and Pat Ryan is not a very popular choice down there, you know, which is and look, I don't know how these things are. I'm not casting any on his character as an individual. If you follow my drift, you
Mm,
know,
yeah,
I'm just saying that there was a suggestion that Ben O'Connor, Wayne Sherlock, and Sean O'Halpine, the three of them would be given a chance to run the team for 3 years
yeah,
and do the best they can to make progress. But however, they're involved in underage and all of that. And Ben has a good track record, both as a senior player and as a coach and all of that. He rejuvenated Conor Lehan, he rejuvenated Middleton team, won the county with him and all of that.
yeah,
But Pat Ryan is from Sarsfield, it's a city club, and as the man said, to be well got with some clubs. You know that, Martin, that goes on and off like the GA in
yeah.
this county as well, and Limerick as well, you know. It's not who you are, it's what club you're with.
Mm,
Sometimes it's unfortunate on the person because the person could be the right person for the job, but I'm pessimistic myself. I'm pessimistic that they won't make progress with Pat Ryan. Too many of his friends are on the team, and I think the
mm,
team needs at least 10 or 11 clear outs, including Patrick Horgan. I think he's gone past it
mm,
myself, which is a pity, really.
yeah,
Top scorer in the championship, Patrick Horgan, and people like Harnedy, they're all gone. And move on now. You do what Limerick did. You know, go out with the young
yeah,
team. You might be hockeyed for 1 or 2 games. You might be hockeyed for 3 games,
yeah,
but you know what's expected. Look at Kieran Joyce. They were forced to bring him in centre back because we had no centre back. They were forced to bring him in because what's his name from Blarney, Mark Coleman wasn't related to centre back. Even though
mm,
he's playing there for a couple of years, he was related to centre back.
mm,
Anybody at the matches could see that. Mark Coleman was very poor. Mark Coleman is probably a midfielder, in my opinion,
mm,
at his best, and if that, you know, good hurler. But Kieran Joyce filled up the last 2 years, and we've solved that. We haven't solved our full back, right? I don't want to go
mm,
through the whole team, Martin.
yeah,
You'll be sorry you asked me. We haven't solved our full back, and we need a goalkeeper. and we need 4 forwards, a full back, and a goalkeeper. That's 6 players. So lads, put your hands up, and we might do something. But as regards next Sunday, I think Limerick by 11 points.
What? Oh God. Jesus.
I think so.
Oh God. Poof.
No, there you are.
God.
You heard the deal. I put my neck in the block, and I'll expect a free ticket for next year when they're going for the 4 in a row, Martin. For that, putting my head out. But from from this edition, Martin. So you haven't a ticket got yet?
No, I won't
Well,
find out.
anybody out there watching tonight, Martin Waters, you can email me, info@clearmedia.tv. Email me in a ticket. It doesn't matter where it's for. It could be in the canal end, up in the gods. It doesn't matter once it's in the ground. Is
That's
that right,
true.
man?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Wants a ticket, and he'd probably pay for it, but if it's free, better still. And you can let us know here on SportsView for the ticket. Maybe two. So from Martin Morris and from myself, lads, thanks for joining us, Martin. Thank
Yeah,
you. And until we meet again, you never know, next Monday it'll be all green with us.
hopefully.
Good evening, Martin, and take care.
See you,
Thank
Pat.
you.
Look, bye now.